The Conservationist is a richly layered and symbolic novel that explores land, identity, race, and power in apartheid-era South Africa. The protagonist, Mering, is a wealthy white industrialist in his 50s who buys a 400-acre farm as a weekend retreat. Though he has no farming background, he sees the land as an investment and a symbol of his status. The novel is less about traditional plot and more about psychological introspection, social commentary, and philosophical exploration. Mering is divorced, emotionally detached, and alienated from his liberal son, Terry, who represents a younger, more progressive worldview. The farm, located in a rural area where black laborers live and work, becomes a kind of microcosm of South African society. While Mering owns the land, he neither understands it nor cares for it in the way the black workers do. He relies on Jacobus, his black foreman, to manage everything, maintaining a relationship that reflects the deep inequalities and dependencies of apartheid. The novel begins with the discovery of a dead black man's body on Mering's farm. The body is buried in a shallow grave with no investigation or ceremony. It becomes a haunting presence throughout the novel, a symbol of unacknowledged history, injustice, and the dispossession of native Africans. Despite the death being seemingly unrelated to the central narrative, it frames the novel thematically. As the novel progresses, Mering's life begins to unravel. He finds that his wealth, influence, and rational mindset cannot bring him peace or purpose. He attempts to find meaning through women, his business, and his farm, but all these relationships feel hollow. His encounters with black workers are cordial but superficial, and he remains blind to the structural injustices that enable his lifestyle. The farm, which he thought he owned and controlled, becomes increasingly wild and unmanageable. Nature reclaims the land, and Mering is forced to confront his impotence, not only over the physical land but over his own life and legacy. In the end, the only figure with a true connection to the land is the dead man, who, though unnamed and marginalized, seems to belong there more than Mering ever could. The novel closes with the community of black workers respectfully reburying the body, suggesting that the land ultimately belongs to those who live with and care for it, not those who merely possess it on paper. Analysis. 1. Land and ownership. At the heart of The Conservationist is the question: who truly owns the land? Mering holds legal title to the farm, but he lacks any spiritual, emotional, or historical connection to it. He views the land as a commodity, something to be managed, displayed, or abandoned. In contrast, the black workers, who have no legal ownership, understand the rhythms of the land, work it daily, and treat it with care. Their knowledge and relationship to the land are intimate and ancestral, in stark contrast to Mering's detached materialism. The dead man's burial at the center of the land, first shallow and later deepened by the workers, becomes a powerful symbol of true belonging. His nameless body, disregarded by the authorities and by Mering, becomes a kind of moral center, representing the people to whom the land really belongs. 2. The illusion of control. Mering's persona is built on the illusion of control over his business, women, land, and image. Yet, he is emotionally isolated and spiritually adrift. His attempts to impose order on the farm are undermined by natural forces and the quiet autonomy of the black workers. Nature in the novel is a wild, untamable force, symbolizing both resistance and resilience. The farm resists Mering's efforts to shape it, just as South Africa's oppressed people continue to assert their presence in spite of systemic erasure. The irony of the title The Conservationist lies in Mering's shallow understanding of conservation. He thinks of it in terms of protecting assets or maintaining order, but true conservation, preserving relationships, values, and dignity, is beyond him. 3. Race, class, and apartheid. The novel offers a scathing critique of apartheid-era racial hierarchies. Mering believes he is a benevolent landowner, but his relationships are built on deeply unequal power dynamics. He paternalistically regards Jacobus and the farm workers as loyal subordinates, but he never questions the system that keeps them disenfranchised. The state's response to the dead black man, casual, indifferent, and dismissive, is emblematic of the broader racial injustice under apartheid. The man is not just forgotten, he is erased, denied identity and ceremony. Gordimer uses this to highlight how black lives are devalued within the system, even as they are foundational to its functioning. Maring's interactions with his son also underscore these tensions. Terry is openly critical of apartheid, rejects capitalism, and embraces a more progressive worldview. The generational divide reflects the moral reckoning that was growing within white South African society in the 1970s. 4. Alienation and existential crisis. Maring is a classic existential anti-hero. He is successful by society's standards, but deeply alienated from others, from himself, and from any sense of meaning. His inner monologues are filled with disconnected memories, failed relationships, and intellectual rationalizations, but they reveal a man increasingly hollow and frightened. His occasional romantic affairs offer no fulfillment. His conversations are often superficial. He visits the farm hoping to find simplicity and solace, but even there, he is an outsider. This alienation is both personal and political. Gordimer uses Maring to explore how white privilege under apartheid dehumanizes not only the oppressed but also the oppressors, who live in spiritual exile from the truth of their own country. 5. Symbolism of the dead body. The anonymous dead black man is perhaps the novel's most potent symbol. He represents the forgotten histories and buried traumas of South Africa, the lives lost to systemic violence, the voices silenced by apartheid. His presence on the farm, though initially seen as a nuisance or mystery, becomes central. The quiet dignity with which the black community eventually reburies him stands in contrast to the state's apathy and Maring's detachment. It suggests a return of moral order, a recentering of history around those to whom the land truly belongs. In this way, the dead man becomes a symbol of resistance, reclamation, and hope. His burial by the workers is not just an act of respect. It is a political and spiritual statement that the future belongs to the people, not to the powerful. Conclusion. The Conservationist is a complex and deeply symbolic novel that exposes the moral bankruptcy of apartheid, the fragility of privilege, and the deep spiritual ties between people and land. Through the character of Maring, Gordimer critiques not only a political system but also a way of life that is hollow, exploitative, and ultimately unsustainable. The novel's power lies in its quiet intensity, its refusal to offer easy answers, and its profound sense of place. By juxtaposing Maring's alienation with the unseen resilience of the oppressed, Gordimer suggests that true belonging and justice lie not with the conquerors, but with the caretakers of the land and memory. The Conservationist remains one of the most enduring works of South African literature, an eloquent indictment of apartheid and a profound meditation on identity, ownership, and the meaning of home.